but in-depth responses. But let's start from the Alberto Trujillo presentation about the distortion of the Polish history through the eyes of someone who's observing very much in detail the Spanish media, because that's how we're supposed to start it. And then we're going to have a very brief but intense discussion about this distortion of Polish history and how to fight it, how to deal with that issue with Professor Grzegorz Berendt, Professor Krystyna Zaworska, Stefan Komar, and the first panelists. So the floor is yours.
Is the presentation loaded? Okay, that is the title of my presentation. First of all, I want to thank the committee for inviting me here, because I am just really a model disseminator of Polish history, and for me it's a privilege to be here talking to you. I will try to be very, very brief, because many things that we have been listening to these very interesting days are the same things that I was intending to tell to you. So the way as Poland and the Second World War is seen in the Spanish and Portuguese-speaking world is fairly similar. What I am going to tell you is not a scientific study, but is the results of years of observation by a person very interested in Polish history, of talks and conversation during historical reenactment events and lectures that we have been giving in schools, and also in my daily life, because I live and work in an environment of white-collar professionals, educated people, and so I can give a nice idea of how it is. Okay, let's go to any street in Spain or to a university and begin to ask bypassers about these names. Sorry, I went too quickly. I can tell you that almost no one will recognize these names. Very few of them will be able to place them in a timeline, and very, very, very few of them will recognize any Polish implication in them. And if they recognize them, it will be very, very roughly and maybe distorted. Or let's call these Polish heroes and organizations. So, besides anyone that appeared in any major movie, no one will be known. Żegota. Ask about Żegota. What was Żegota? No idea. Not the slightest clue. So, we are dwelling in a deep well of ignorance. Mr. Koskodan told what he was taught in the school. I think I studied in the same school as him, because we were taught that Poland's contribution to Second World War was to be invaded the 1st of September, to resist maybe 2 weeks with the Polish planes destroyed in the ground in the first 2 hours, and the very brave Polish lancers charging heroically and suicidally against the Polish tanks, the German tanks, sorry. So there is a deep well of ignorance that can be easily filled with stereotypes, and these are the major stereotypes we are facing and we find in Spain. So for some people, the Germanophile, because in Spain also there is a big attraction for the dark side, the Poles almost caused the war because they were stubborn. They didn't want to give the corridor to Germany, but that was Germany. For many or most of these people, that part of of course, it depends which time of the watch of history do you stop. But for them, that was Germany. The Polish lancers the very short resistance. Of course, nobody knows anything about the Soviet invasion. That Poles were very anti-Semitic, so in fact, most of them were very happy with what the Germans were doing with the Jews. There is a huge confusion between the uprisings in Warsaw. So there is I think probably by academia and by many authors, that there is a confusion between the uprising of the ghetto of Warsaw and the Warsaw uprising in 1944. The people is not able to distinguish them, and most of them, when you talk about the Warsaw uprising, the first question that they do is about the ghetto. So they believe that we are talking about the ghetto uprising. And of course that the Soviets liberated the country, and they could establish a communist regime there because the Poles were very happy to be liberated by the communists. Okay, we'll try to go. Oh, this is the first one. Okay. Also, in history books, the role of Poland is really diminished. If you go to, I am not talking about academia books, but of general books for the general public. Okay, this is an encyclopedia about the Second World War, very popular in Spain nowadays. 400 pages. These are the 3 times that Poland is mentioned in this encyclopedia. One is regarding the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact and the invasion in September. The second is about the rebellion in the Warsaw Ghetto. And the third is the Warsaw Uprising. You see, the longest one is about the ghetto. Another problem. If you are interested in history, one of these crazy people that likes to read books, and you are interested in Polish history, you need to know languages. That are a part of my collection of books about Polish history. If you notice something, 90% of them are in English. And it is not because I bought them in English because I wanted to improve my English, what I indeed need. No, it was because it was the only way of being able of reading them. In Spanish, there are no books about published about Polish history. Historical Polish movies, besides kite cutting, that is the only exception. The other ones have to be watched in English, and they are not released in the major commercial circuits. So most of these movies were bought through Amazon or by visiting Warsaw, looking for them in stores in Warsaw. Another problem, we have to say that in most South America and in Spain, communism is still regarded as a democratic ideology. So something very respectable, and the communists are regarded as freedom fighters. So you will not believe this, but these posters, well, not the T-shirt, but the posters are of the promotion of a conference held in a Spanish university, and last May, in October, quite recently. And the title is International Conference in Defense of the Communism, with the poster of Joseph Stalin there, and here we have Marx, and the guy that paid Marx bills, Engels. So in this environment, imagine how the reactionary Polish government in exile or the pre-war Polish government can be depicted. Or what these scholars say about the Armia Krajowa, that was totally opposed to the communist regime. The mass media, the movies, again the same. Thomas Gross, very popular in Spain with his book and the theatrical play. Series like Unser Vater, Unser Mutter, that whitewash the role of the Germans, and when present the Polish underground, they present themselves as almost as anti-Semitic as the real Nazis. Or the Schindler List. Who doesn't remember this very nice photograph when they are heading in the train to Auschwitz and they pass through a camp in Poland and there are some peasants and the Polish girl does this gesture to the people in the train. Thank you, Spielberg. And now the mass media, the press. This is how Poland is depicted in the press. These are some headlines of one of the most read newspapers in Spain, El País. A newspaper where Gross and Grabowski appear almost every month. The second one is amazing. Poland rewrites her history in the Second World War. An official institute published a list with the names of 9,000 Auschwitz wards, among almost all of them were Germans. That creates doubts among historians. So the Instytut Pamięci Narodowej published the list of wards of Auschwitz. Being a German camp, it is surprising that all the wards were Germans. And then they published it that Poland is rewriting her history. This is only the headline, because the text of the article is almost the complete thesis of Jan Gross and Grabowski, all the time talking about how heavy the Poles were with the Jews. This is literally Jan Grabowski's. So he published an article in this newspaper, and some sentences are terrible because he says, sadly, anti-Semitism has been always an element, maybe even a constituent one, of the Polish culture. The anti-Semitic feelings were already strong and became stronger during the war. He even says that histories of rescuers are constructions. So stories like the Markowa one have been built up in order to clean consciousness. 3 million of Polish Jews were killed in front of 20 million of her compatriots. To all these articles, associations like mine, the Polish Embassy, associations of Poles in Spain, wrote letters of protest. None of them were published. We could continue. I could talk about the influx of Russia propaganda nowadays in Spain and South America, because it's been really strong. So we have many discussions with people that denies the Katyn massacre or justifies it. People that justifies the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact with crazy arguments. I don't have time to come into them, but it's really, we can talk later. And this is a letter written by the Soviet ambassador, the Russian ambassador in Spain. And he's literally whitewashing the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. It's amazing. Reading it, it is like a piece of history fiction. And distortion, manipulation, everything all together. And do you know, this message from Russia is both by the leftist nostalgic of Soviet Union, and also by the many conservative people that likes Putin, because some of his policies regarding immigration, regarding nationalism in Russia, regarding LGBT issues, and most of these people of conservative ideas and anti-communists in many aspects buys the Putin's message and do not see the threat of Russia, and they defend somehow the Soviet Union. Of course, there is still some hope, okay? And I just want to thank to the Polish embassy the work that they are doing, some bloggers in Spain, that my friend Elentir, and some initiatives like the Ministry of Heroes initiative to try to spread a little bit more the Polish history in my country. My language is Spanish speaking countries. Thank you very much.